So, like I said, I've been really excited for you guys to hear this conversation with Lily because I allude to where I grew up, and you hear stories from time to time about me being in graduate school and all of these kinds of things. But it is a rarity on the program when I get to talk to somebody else who is also a working class kid who went through the kinds of stuff that I went through, although Lily's story is way more off the hook than anything I ever did. But you can hear, and what you're going to hear as you go through the program, as we sort of begin to discover these things about each other, there comes this recognition of this class structure that we've both lived through. And the kinds of anger that you carry with you, even once you get past some of that stuff, that anger stays with you. And I've talked about my therapy, and I've talked about what I've done over the last 4 years to begin to unwind some of this stuff. And I told Lily after this episode, after the conversation, we chat a little bit after, and I told her, this was one of the most cathartic discussions I've ever had because it's so nice to be seen. It's so nice to talk to somebody who understands that and who gets it. And it is interesting, the trajectory of this conversation throughout the hour. You can hear us becoming more open and more comfortable and more trusting with each other. Now, this is not a thing that has carried through into our real lives. We don't know each other. But in the course of that thing, it goes to show you the power of representation, the power of being seen, because it was a light in that day. I remember the day that I interviewed her. And I've talked about it with scores of people since then. And I could not wait to release it because that was so important to me. And I've had this kind of discussion with other people on the program, and I've told you about the ways in which I experienced other people's writing as I saw them bringing their identity forth through their books, right? And as their journey happened through their writing. And it is a thing that I appreciate. But the conversation that I had with Lily was beyond appreciation. It was recognition. It was being able to have that. And the other thing about it was that we were also able to sort of have the vector of race and class and gender, because while we both come from this sort of working class place, the fact that she's a woman and I'm a guy means that we experience that differently. The fact that we are white means that we are able to recognize that other people have different experiences that are worse or harder, or however you want to describe that, than us. But that doesn't remove the pain and the anger that we have, right? Like, it's not a competition, but it is something that needs to be recognized. And I've gone to several of her events now. I've watched her moderate different things. You'll hear it in the conversation. She is so situationally aware of those things and so able to navigate them with a grace that it's an honor to be around that, right? And when I have that conversation with a person like that, I then want to elevate myself, and I want to be better than I probably am in real life. Not probably. If you know me, you know for a fact. Because it's really hard to do that. It's really hard to extract yourself from your own pain and your own anger, which is real, but you have to contextualize it. And she's so good at contextualizing those kinds of things. And Joe Clifford and I talked about those things, that when you go through pain and suffering for whatever reason, if you come out on the other side of that darkness, you will be empathetic. You have to be, because you understand pain. And so when you see that pain in other people, even if it's a pain that comes from a different place than yours, you recognize it. And it allows you, if you are aware of it, to be empathetic. And all I could think while I was talking to Lily and in the weeks since this interview happened was what a gift it was to interview somebody like her who is better at this than me, who is amazingly empathetic and who has this giant heart and who has the brain to be able to also parse through it and see it and understand it. And I don't mean to suggest that the only way to have empathy is to go through pain and all of that stuff. That's not what I mean. I am just talking about why I was so excited to interview her. I am so excited for you to hear it. I cannot wait to read her book. And I love following her on Twitter. I love going to her events. Like, she is just one of the coolest fucking cats I've ever had a chance to interview.